Imagine this. You've just achieved what you always thought would complete you. The promotion, the perfect partner, the dream house. A moment so carefully curated by years of ambition, anxiety, and longing. And yet, as you stand there, wine in hand, warm lights humming above, the admiration of others echoing around you, you feel nothing. Or worse, a vague, creeping sense of disillusionment. You brush it off. You must just be tired. You'll feel it tomorrow, you tell yourself, the joy, the arrival. But tomorrow comes, and the next, and the next. And still, you find yourself haunted by a silent, gnawing void. Why does fulfillment so often feel like a mirage? There's something deeply wrong with the way we've been taught to want. Desire is supposed to animate us, give us direction, purpose, drive. But what if desire itself is the trap? What if the chase isn't leading you toward life, but away from it? Arthur Schopenhauer, bleak, brilliant, and misunderstood, warned us about this very thing. He believed desire was not a spark of the divine, but a curse embedded in the fabric of existence. To want, he said, is to suffer. To get what you want is merely to swap one form of suffering for another. And he wasn't just being poetic. He meant it in a biological, psychological, spiritual sense. You are wired to crave, not to be satisfied. Let that sit with you for a moment. If desire is a perpetual hunger, then every achievement is just a temporary salve. The high fades, the satisfaction decays, and before long, you're left chasing something new, not because you truly want it, but because the silence of not wanting feels unbearable. How often do we set goals not out of genuine longing, but out of fear of stillness? How many of your ambitions are just distractions from an inner emptiness you're too afraid to face? Schopenhauer suggested that desire is not a road to happiness but a prison of constant becoming. You become someone worthy of love. You become someone successful. You become someone spiritual. And yet, you never arrive. You are always becoming, but never being. And here's the paradox. The very thing that gives your life direction, desire, is also what keeps you in chains. A man spends 20 years building an empire only to discover he's burned every bridge that mattered. A woman chases aesthetic perfection until her mirror becomes a source of terror. An artist strives for recognition, but when the spotlight hits, they feel more invisible than ever. This isn't rare. It's the undercurrent of modern life. You've felt it too, haven't you? That sudden hollowness when you finally get what you thought would fix you. That strange melancholy that arrives after the win, not before it. That whisper in the back of your mind that says, "Is this it?" But we never stop to ask why. We blame ourselves. Maybe we picked the wrong goal. Maybe we didn't work hard enough. Maybe we're ungrateful. So, we choose another target. A better one. A deeper one. Another pursuit. Another distraction. And the cycle continues. But what if you've been lied to, not by a person, but by the architecture of your own mind? What if the real enemy isn't failure or lack of motivation, but desire itself? This isn't just a philosophical musing, it's a diagnosis. Schopenhauer wasn't being dramatic, he was being surgical. He looked into the heart of the human condition and found a mechanism wired for dissatisfaction. He called it, the will, a blind, restless force that drives all life forward, not toward peace but toward endless craving. You don't choose it, you are it, and unless you understand how it governs your every impulse, you will remain a puppet pulled by invisible strings. So the question becomes, if desire is the source of our suffering, then why do we worship it like a god? Why is every ad, every influencer, every system of self-help trying to make us want more, when more only deepens the void? And if we can't escape desire, is there any way to make peace with it? That's where the real story begins. To understand the root of this quiet torment, the whisper that echoes behind every success, every failure, every dream, you must go deeper into the psychological and philosophical abyss from which it arises. Because if you don't understand your desire will continue to understand you. And it knows exactly how to keep you running. Desire is rarely questioned, only chased, fulfilled, or frustrated. But the moment you stop long enough to examine it, a terrifying truth emerges: desire doesn't belong to you. It moves through you like an invasive species, speaking in your voice, wearing your face. And unless you learn to see it clearly, you'll spend your entire life mistaking your cravings for your identity. Schopenhauer, centuries before the invention of modern psychology, identified something eerily similar to what today's neuroscientists and trauma experts are only beginning to articulate. He called it the will, a blind, unreasoning force that pulses beneath all of life, pushing us toward survival, reproduction, power, novelty, and consumption. It doesn't care about happiness. It doesn't care about peace. It only cares about continuation, motion, craving. Unlike reason, the will isn't rational. It doesn't reflect or pause, it hungers. Even when you think you're choosing something consciously, the will is already 5 steps ahead of you, puppeteering your desire with an invisible hand. Gabor Mate, a contemporary voice in trauma psychology, might say the will manifests as compulsive behavior born from unmet needs and unresolved pain. What Schopenhauer called the futility of desire, Mate would recognize as addiction, not just to substances, but to achievement, approval, work, control. The external object is irrelevant. What matters is the inner hole it's trying to fill. Carl Jung took it further. He believed that our unconscious is filled with fragmented desires, some so deeply repressed that we're no longer aware we even have them. We might think we want a healthy relationship, but unconsciously we crave chaos because that's what love looked like in childhood. We might chase success, but it's not wealth we seek. It's validation, revenge, or a parent's long-withheld praise. In this way, desire is not a guiding light, it's a distorted mirror, reflecting wounds disguised as goals. Even Nietzsche, often seen as Schopenhauer's rebellious philosophical son, recognized the subtle tyranny of desire. While he believed in affirming life, he also warned that most people never truly choose their values. Instead, they inherit their wants, passed down from culture, advertising, broken families, and spiritual emptiness masquerading as ambition. You were born into a system designed to amplify your cravings. Every screen you look at, every brand you wear, every social metric you chase, they are signals. Not just of what you desire, but of how you're being shaped to desire. Desire is no longer personal. It's engineered. It's no accident that you feel anxious when you're not being productive. It's no coincidence that rest makes you feel guilty. You've been taught that happiness lies on the other side of acquisition, more knowledge, more status, more validation, more stuff. But here's the hidden problem. The more you feed this hunger, the bigger it gets. Schopenhauer compared life to a pendulum swinging between pain and boredom. Pain arises from unfulfilled desire. But once that desire is fulfilled, once the novelty fades, boredom creeps in. And the only escape from boredom, more desire. You're either suffering because you don't have something, or suffering because you do. It's a system without an exit. This is the psychospiritual hamster wheel that defines modern existence. We are caught in a loop where even our healing becomes a performance. Even spirituality becomes a commodity. Even our authentic selves are curated for maximum engagement. And beneath all of it, beneath the hashtags, the hustle, the self-help, is the same primal force Schopenhauer warned us about, the will to want. This is not just a personal struggle. It's a civilizational one. Entire economies depend on you being unsatisfied. Governments rely on your restlessness. Social systems flourish when your attention is fragmented. Marketing doesn't sell products anymore, it sells longing. You've been trained to chase dopamine like a lab rat hitting a lever, mistaking temporary pleasure for permanent meaning. But dopamine isn't fulfillment, it's anticipation. It's the promise of the thing, not the thing itself. Once you get the thing, the brain quickly adapts. The buzz fades. The cycle starts again. You never wanted the object. You wanted what you thought it would do to your inner world. You wanted peace. You wanted wholeness. You wanted to stop feeling like something's missing. And yet, the very act of wanting is what ensures that something is missing. Because desire, by its nature, creates a gap, a distance between who you are and where you think you need to be. And that distance, that's where your suffering lives. So what now? Are we doomed to suffer under this force forever? Is the only answer to suppress desire, to numb ourselves into passive detachment? Schopenhauer thought so. He believed that true peace could only be found by negating the will, a kind of inner renunciation, similar to Buddhist detachment, where one stops chasing and starts witnessing. But even that is easier said than done. Because to negate the will, you must first see it clearly. You must become radically honest about what you really want, and why. You must separate your authentic self from the machinery of inherited cravings. And you must confront the terrifying possibility that most of what you've been chasing has nothing to do with you. This is the great reckoning. The psychological underworld where your desires aren't cute aspirations or Pinterest vision boards, but symptoms of a deeper disconnection from your true self. To walk this path means letting go of the very things you once believed would save you. It means staring directly into the void, not to fill it, but to understand it. It means realizing that desire is not the voice of your soul, it's the echo of your conditioning. And only by facing that echo can you begin to hear something more real, more ancient, and far more still. But what happens when you ignore this truth? What are the costs, personal, societal, even civilizational, of living in a world addicted to wanting? That's where we go next. You think you're making progress. You tick off the goals, upgrade the apartment, gain the followers, even master the morning routine. But something strange starts to happen. The more you achieve, the more hollow it feels. You're doing everything right, yet feeling more disconnected, more numb, more tired. This is the curse of modern desire. It never delivers what it promises. And worse, it trains you to blame yourself for the emptiness it leaves behind. You don't realize you're drowning in it because everyone else is too. Society has normalized the sickness. You're not supposed to question it, you're supposed to optimize it. Hack your habits. Stack your dopamine. Set bigger goals. Crave harder. But here's what no one tells you. Chronic desire turns you into a slave. Not just psychologically, but biologically. Your brain's reward system, designed over millions of years to ensure your survival, wasn't built for constant stimulation. It was designed to reward small wins, finding shelter, discovering food, forming bonds. But now it's been hijacked by hyper-novelty. Scroll feeds, algorithmic seduction, instant gratification. Every click, like, purchase, it's all dopamine. And every dopamine hit makes the next one less satisfying. The threshold rises. The baseline drops. Pleasure becomes harder to feel. Motivation decays. Joy is replaced by dopaminergic fatigue, a numb, restless discontent. You're not broken. You're overstimulated and undernourished, starving for depth in a world full of noise. This is where Schopenhauer's warning hits like prophecy. He saw desire as a cosmic joke, a cycle designed to perpetuate suffering, not resolve it. The more you feed it, the more it grows. And eventually, you start mistaking the chase for the meaning of life itself. Let that sink in. Most people don't want to be free from desire. They want to be successful in their slavery to it. They don't question the system. They just want to win inside it. And this is where it gets dark. Because when a society stops questioning its desires, it stops questioning its values. It becomes obsessed with efficiency over meaning, appearance over authenticity, consumption over connection. It becomes pathological. Think about this. We celebrate burnout as ambition. We measure love in attention, not devotion. We use self-help not to awaken, but to perform better in the same toxic patterns. We confuse constant productivity with progress, even if we're heading toward a cliff. We've built a culture where the currency is not truth, but craving. And the marketplace isn't just external, it's internal. Your mind becomes a battlefield of desires. Do more, be more, buy more, prove more. This creates what Carl Jung called the divided self, a psychological war between who you really are and who your desires are telling you to become. And the more you obey those voices, the further you drift from your core. Eventually, the soul rebels. But it doesn't scream. It whispers. In depression. In apathy. In the quiet terror of Sunday nights. In the strange sensation that no matter how much you achieve, you're always a few steps away from feeling alive. That's not failure. That's a signal. It means the system of desire you've been running on is collapsing. And in that collapse is your chance to awaken. But most people won't. They'll just double down, try harder, desire better. And in doing so, they fall deeper into the trap Schopenhauer warned us about. The trap of living as though desire is salvation, when in reality, it's a prison. Nowhere is this more evident than in the epidemic of addiction. Not just drugs, but screens, validation, perfection, hustle, escapism. All addictions have the same root, a desperate attempt to control internal states through external means. But it never works. Because desire can only promise, you must chase it to feel alive. And that chase ensures that peace is always postponed. Gabor Mate calls addiction a response to human suffering. But what if that suffering comes from the very structure of our desire? What if every unmet need, every shame-driven ambition, every toxic relationship is a symptom of chasing what can never actually fulfill us? And here's the deepest irony. The more you succeed at fulfilling your desires, the harder it becomes to recognize that you're still suffering. Because success camouflages emptiness. You tell yourself you're fine. You have the job, the lifestyle, the image. But underneath, the silence is deafening. Desire doesn't die when you get what you want. It mutates into fear of losing it, into obsession with keeping it, into boredom when it no longer excites you. And so the wheel spins again. Pain, boredom, desire, fulfillment, emptiness. Round and round it goes. Until you break the cycle. But to break it, you must first see it. Not as a flaw in your willpower. Not as a lack of discipline. But as the architecture of a system designed to keep you forever wanting, because your craving is more profitable than your contentment. So what's the way out? It's not to suppress your desires. That's just repression, and it always backfires. It's to understand them, dismantle them, transcend them, and to realize that peace isn't found in having what you want. Peace is found in no longer being controlled by what you want. But how do you get there? How do you rebel against something so embedded in your psyche, so wired into your biology, so normalized by your culture? How do you escape the machine, when you've mistaken it for yourself? That's where we go next. It starts with a simple question. What if the thing you've been chasing all along isn't the thing you need? It's easy to become so ensnared by your desires that you lose sight of what it feels like to live without them. In a world designed to inflame your cravings, the idea of stepping off the treadmill of constant acquisition can seem ludicrous. How can you break free when everyone around you is so deeply entangled in the same struggle? It's like trying to stop swimming in a current when the entire river is flowing in the same direction. But what if you didn't have to fight the current? What if the solution wasn't in trying harder, but in learning to move differently? Schopenhauer's remedy wasn't about achieving some unattainable state of constant serenity. It wasn't about forcing yourself into a life of asceticism or suffering for suffering's sake. Instead, he proposed something radical: learn to transcend the desire itself. To truly break free, you have to stop seeing your desires as part of your identity and, instead, recognize them as outside forces that pass through you. They are not you, they are conditions created by life itself, and with the right awareness, you can step outside of them. The first step: radical detachment. Detachment does not mean apathy or indifference. It means freeing yourself from the unconscious grip of your cravings. It's the ability to step back, look at the desire without judgment, and ask, do I really need this? Or is this the voice of something external, trying to convince me it's mine? This is no easy task. It requires immense awareness, not just of your actions, but of your internal landscape. Your thoughts, your feelings, and your impulses must become objects of observation, not commands that you follow automatically. The moment you realize that every craving is simply a wave on the ocean of your psyche, you can stop riding those waves and start observing them as they pass by. Imagine waking up one day and deciding that you no longer need to have the latest phone, the perfect body, the approval of others, or even the constant sense of more that modern life preaches. Instead, you start living with less, not because you're forced to, but because you've realized that desire is a ruse. It's a magician's trick designed to keep you occupied, to make you feel incomplete until you chase that next thing. That's the beginning of freedom. Schopenhauer suggests we can turn this realization into a profound shift in consciousness. We can become aware of the force that drives us and choose to consciously redirect it. This is where true empowerment lies. Not in the chase, but in the ability to step outside of it entirely. Instead of seeking satisfaction through external objects, whether they are tangible or emotional, you turn inward, looking for contentment within yourself. Nietzsche, ever the iconoclast, would argue that this kind of detachment is an act of supreme freedom, a way to reclaim the power over your own life by refusing to be a slave to the wills and desires that others impose on you. It's a radical rejection of the values handed down to you by culture, by social expectation, by the mindless consumption of what's marketed to you as happiness. To break free from desire, you must first decouple yourself from the external sources of your cravings. But this goes deeper than simply rejecting external pressures. True rebellion happens when you confront your own subconscious programming. Every desire has a root, an origin in your childhood, in your traumas, in your experiences of pleasure and pain. For example, if you crave validation from others, it could be a response to early experiences of neglect or rejection. If you're driven by perfectionism, it may stem from messages of conditional love or achievement being the only form of self-worth. Recognizing these patterns is the first step in dissolving them. This is where self-awareness becomes the key to freedom. It's not enough to simply want to get rid of desire. You must understand where it comes from, why it arises, and how it's shaping your life. This is the practice of shadow work, which Carl Jung so poignantly describes as integrating the parts of yourself that you've repressed, the hidden desires, the unresolved wounds, the feelings you've been taught to bury. The shadow doesn't vanish by ignoring it. It grows stronger. It takes over your unconscious life. It sneaks into your decisions, controlling you through desires you can't even name. However, once you bring the shadow to the surface and confront it, you are no longer a prisoner of your cravings. You see them for what they are, echoes of past conditioning, products of a system designed to perpetuate your dissatisfaction. They lose their grip on you. You realize that the only power desire has is the one you give it. This is where Sartre's concept of freedom intersects with Schopenhauer's insights. Sartre argues that we are condemned to be free, that we have the power to choose, but with that freedom comes responsibility. You are not the product of your desires unless you choose to be. Your essence is not defined by what you crave. By taking responsibility for your desires, you reclaim your freedom. You free yourself from the slavery of constantly seeking external validation, approval, or things. One of the most powerful historical examples of breaking free from desire is the life of Gandhi, who voluntarily renounced wealth, power, and status to follow an inner calling. He found that true freedom lay in simplicity, in choosing not to be attached to anything. His life was a living testament to Schopenhauer's insight. By letting go of the desire for material possessions, he transcended the very notion of wanting. This doesn't mean living without goals or dreams. Rather, it means living without attachment to the outcome. You can still desire, be ambitious, passionate, and hopeful, but you no longer need those desires to define your worth. You become capable of pursuing goals without being enslaved by them. You are no longer chasing after the illusion of happiness. Instead, happiness becomes something you find by embracing the present moment, by practicing mindful detachment. This is the paradox. By not needing to have what you want, you find peace. By letting go of the hunger for satisfaction, you become full. The act of stepping back from your cravings is not about denial, it's about choice. It's about recognizing that, in the end, you are not what you desire, and you are certainly not the constant chase that desire keeps you in. You are, instead, the awareness of all that is happening, the space between your desires and your peace. So, the question remains, how do you break free? You break free by realizing that you don't need to keep chasing. You stop, you look, you reflect, and when the cravings rise again, as they inevitably will, you see them for what they are. You choose to let them pass. Now imagine this. You stand in front of the mirror, facing the very thing you've feared the most, yourself. You've spent your whole life running, chasing, searching for something that would make you feel complete, something that would give you that elusive sense of fulfillment. But in that moment, when you strip away all the noise, the distractions, the endless pursuit of things outside yourself, you realize the bitter truth. The chase has never been about the things you thought it was. It's not about the perfect job, the perfect relationship, the perfect image of yourself. All of those things were merely illusions, temporary fixes to the deeper wound you've been avoiding. The truth is that the desire itself has been the source of your suffering. This is where Schopenhauer's profound warning hits home. Desire itself is the enemy. It's easy to think that the solution lies in acquiring what you want, or in achieving some ideal state of fulfillment. But Schopenhauer shows us something more unsettling. The satisfaction of one desire only gives birth to another, deeper craving. The cycle never ends because desire is not meant to be satisfied, it is meant to perpetuate itself. To live in constant striving, to exist forever in the tension between what you want and what you lack, is to live a life bound by an invisible chain. The moment you realize this, that the desire itself is the trap, you gain a level of clarity that is, in itself, liberating. But this realization also demands something of you. To break free, you must let go of the idea that life's meaning lies in the satisfaction of your cravings. True freedom, as Schopenhauer saw it, comes not from satisfying desires but from transcending them. Here's the paradox: to truly be free, you must accept that happiness is not something to be pursued. It is something that emerges when you stop chasing it. Happiness is a byproduct of freedom, and freedom comes from no longer identifying yourself with the endless tide of wants that seek to pull you under. When you stop identifying with your desires, you stop giving them the power to control your life. This realization, this shift in perspective, is nothing short of a revolution within your psyche. The moment you stop identifying with your desires, you begin to understand the nature of your true self. Your essence is not a collection of desires, ambitions, or fleeting goals. It is the awareness that observes them. You are the observer, not the actor. This is where the deepest, most profound insight of Schopenhauer's philosophy comes into play. You are not your desires. They are transient, fleeting, mere ripples on the surface of a deeper ocean. When you understand this, something extraordinary happens. The relentless noise of your inner world begins to fade. The constant chatter, the constant demand to achieve, to acquire, to prove yourself, it all quiets. In that silence, you experience a deep sense of peace. It's as if the world around you slows down, and in that stillness, you come into direct contact with the truth of your existence. You realize, in that moment, that you have always been enough. Not because of what you have or what you can achieve, but because of who you are at your core. This is the ultimate realization of freedom. To be free is to be at peace with yourself, without needing anything, without needing to chase anything, without needing to constantly be becoming something. You simply are. This is the paradox that many spiritual traditions and philosophers have pointed to, but Schopenhauer, through his dark, often unsettling view of life, brings it into sharp focus. Life is suffering, yes, but it is also an opportunity to transcend that suffering. When you stop identifying with your desires, you break free from the suffering of wanting. You stop needing to chase after something to feel whole, because you realize that the chase itself is what has been preventing you from experiencing true peace. What does this look like in practice? It means that you begin to live with intention, not driven by the unconscious force of your desires but by a conscious choice to live in alignment with your true self. This may mean choosing to live with less, to find joy in simplicity, to let go of the attachment to material possessions or superficial success. It means understanding that you are already complete, and that nothing external can make you more so. You are already whole. But the real beauty of this realization is that it offers you something even more profound than peace. It offers you freedom. The freedom to live without fear of loss, the freedom to let go of attachment, the freedom to experience life without the need to control every outcome. The freedom to simply be. Schopenhauer's warning, though difficult to swallow, leads to an unexpected conclusion. Desire is not the source of happiness, it is the root of all misery. The moment you accept this, you step into a new way of being. You live in the present moment, unshackled from the past, unattached to the future. And it is only in this state of being that you find what you've always been searching for, peace. The ultimate truth is that freedom lies not in the fulfillment of your desires but in the liberation from them. By letting go of the chase, you become free. And in that freedom, you find the one thing that has always eluded you, true contentment. In a world obsessed with more, this insight is a quiet revolution. You don't need more. You never did. All you need is to stop wanting, to stop striving, and to simply exist as you are. When you let go of the need to satisfy every craving, you realize that you were never incomplete to begin with. You were always